Good morning, Cornerstone. This is Madvi Singh. So I want to look at a little chunk of Moses' life because there's this character trait that he has that I think is so important for us to think about. So I'll be reading in Exodus 5 and 6, but to give you a little bit of background, this is the point in time where Moses is just pleading with Pharaoh to let the Israelites go so that they can go in the desert, leave Egypt and just be able to worship God. So right before this chapter, Moses has gone and shown Pharaoh all these signs and wonders, and Pharaoh is just really stubborn. So in verse 1 it says, "Afterwards Moses and Aaron went in and told Pharaoh, 'Thus says the Lord God of Israel, let my people go, that they may hold a feast to me in the wilderness.' And Pharaoh said, 'Who is the Lord, that I should obey his voice to let Israel go? I do not know the Lord, nor will I let Israel go.'" If you jump down to verse 22, it says, "So Moses returned to the Lord and said," and then he talks to God. And that goes into Exodus chapter 6, where Moses talks to God, and then in verse 2 it says, "And God spoke to Moses and said to him, I am the Lord." And you can keep reading in this chapter, but Moses and God, they have a conversation. They just talk about what's happening. But what I want to look at with Moses and Pharaoh, just looking at those two people, one thing that we see in Moses is that he demonstrates meekness. And meekness is that act of, considering other people higher than yourself. It's responding in godliness. Exercising self-control is definitely a part of meekness. And I know for me, for the longest time, I did not understand meekness. I thought it was just being weak, just being quiet, being a pushover, being that doormat where you just let people walk all over you. But it's not that way at all. It takes a lot of strength to be meek. And seeing the contrast, between Moses and Pharaoh, it shows us just why meekness is so important. Because out of these two, who was it that God spoke to? Not in dreams and visions like to prophets and things, but directly spoke to. It was Moses. And in Matthew 5:5, Jesus tells us that blessed are the meek, for they will inherit the earth. And I think Jesus tells us that because the meek, they're the ones that God can speak to. Because they submit, they surrender to God, and God is able to speak to them. Because in this, chapter, Exodus 5 and 6, we see that, Moses doesn't defend himself, but he goes to God and he allows God to defend him. He denies himself, but he submits and surrenders just to God's plan. And this is a quality, that I definitely want to grow in, because I think for all of us, if we just look at our lives, if we just kind of reflect on how we respond to things, are we more like Pharaoh, where we take just the root of pride? Or are we more like Moses, where we really just demonstrate meekness? But yeah, that's just what I wanted to share today. And I hope it's something that gets you thinking. But thank you so much for listening. Hope you guys have a great day.